Hey y'all, insight number 2. Now this one's in Isaiah 41:4. This is one of the ones that talks about if you're feeling lost. And I think a lot of us feel that we are lost. And liken it to a hike or just even progress in life. And you're the last. You're the last to go. You might be the youngest, you might be the oldest, and you're just feeling left behind and forgotten. And yeah, so that's what we're going to focus on, because a lot of us feel that. We really do feel that we're just forgotten about. We go about our day to day and we don't feel any deep sense of belonging to anything or being noticed, that we're in suffering. We'll cover it up because we don't want other people to see. Although I think with COVID, a lot of people are just not covering up anymore, which is a healthy thing. However, it's also frustrating in a lot of ways because we all really need a lot of help and there's no one to give it except Christ. So for those of us that know Christ and want to know him better, there's help available. Of course, there's help in other places too, but it's hard to get, and I think a lot of us have experienced that too. So there you go. This particular set of verses here is also one of the primary ones primary as in I mean like the ones. This one in Isaiah, what is it? 43, 2-5, and Helaman 2-5. What inspired the hymn How Firm a Foundation. So if you're not familiar with that, go have a look at that up. I might, if we've got time, I'll read some of the verses that we did. But there's a whole thing I want to talk about here, so maybe not. But How Firm a Foundation, have a look at that hymn. Especially if you're studying this week with a family, it'd be great to sing it. And sing the verses that are not listed in the bars, like sing the ones that are listed after, because they're actually really good. Especially 4, 5, and 7. 4, 5, and 7. Excellent. Even just read it as a poem. Like, it's beautiful. So let's have a look at this anyway. So 41:4 says, Who hath wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning? I am the Lord, the first, and with the last I am he. So he's with you, whether you're first or you're last. And you're like, well, how can he be with you if you're first and you're last? Well, he strengthens those at the front so they can lead. And then he goes and hangs out with those that are last, because those are the ones who really need him. The ones that are doing good today, they're okay. Like, they know the Lord's there, they can call out and he'll come help them, but they're okay where they are right now. They're doing good, they're busy doing jobs, whatever they're doing, looking after kids, whatever it is going on in their lives, they're doing fine. And then he'll come back and find those that are lost and carry you home, or help you keep going, or motivate you. So again, back to that, going on a walk with a group, there's always someone who's going to fall behind, someone who's not as well physically, or is just having a tougher time, just in life generally, right? In fact, in most places, there's a whole group of us at the back not doing so great. And I don't ever think that I'm feeling first. Yeah, it's interesting. I always sort of feel like at best I'm in the middle to muddling. Usually I'm at the back and thinking I'm doing a whole lot worse than I probably actually am, but that's how I feel. So it's not about how others perceive you, it's about how you're feeling. Keep that in mind too. But are you feeling left behind, forgotten, and lost? Look, because Christ is with you. He is. And we all progress on pathways at different paces. And the Lord is there to lead and guide and shepherd us from last place. So he will teach us how to, get us on that pathway, and then he'll be that ultimate guide that just checks on every group member as they get to the back, and then he's like, you're having a really tough time. Here, let me help you. We have to let him help us, because you can be at the back there and say, no, I want your help, I'm good, It's like, no, you've got to let him help you. So that's, yeah. And, we are with him, we are not lost, we are not left behind, and we're not forgotten. So quickly, I want to tell a story that when I was in, intermediate, we call it here, I think in America it's middle school. It was grade 8. That's what they're all calling them now. To me, we called it Form 2, because I'm of that age and that's what we called it. But anyway, on our camp we went on, and there was this one young man. Now, my grandparents, who I thought were anciently old and actually weren't, they were like 61. Yeah, it's not that old really. But to a 11-year-old, yeah, they are. But they came with us and they went on the trek with us and camped, and I thought that was pretty freaking awesome that my grandparents did that, because like my mum never came on those sort of things, and she did other things like trips to the zoo, but she wasn't able to. There was younger kids at home, so it's all good. But it was really awesome that my grandparents took time off from serving at the temple, because they were on a temple mission, to come and be at school camp with me. I thought that was really lovely. Now we got down there, and one of the boys was missing. Now this was a boy that came from a troubled home. He was either away from school or he'd show up with bruises and stuff, and nobody ever did anything, and we all knew it. In fact, we all knew what was going on in each other's homes as students. Teachers just didn't do anything, and I'm really pushing for that culture to change, and I think it is. But yeah, this kid had a rough time, and I remember him. His brother went on to tragically murder someone quite famously here, so I won't say names. I felt really bad for him, and I don't know where he is, and he's not on social media, and I just, I pray for him, and I think about him because I feel bad, because he really was a lovely boy. But he was missing, and the teachers were freaking out. Where is he? Can't find him. They backtracked on the trail, can't find him. He's gone. He's like, something spooked him, something stressed him, something's triggered him, and he's gone. Now my granddad said, I'll go find him, and they're looking at him like, he's like, oh, look, I've done hunting, I know how to track, things. He's like, okay, so they let him go. Now, before he went, my granddad had a prayer, because, yeah, he was, and still is, he's just not with us here on earth anymore, a good member of the gospel. He was a bishop a couple of times, he was currently working in the temple, as I said, serving a mission, and he was a temple sealer, so a very spiritual man. So he went looking for this kid, and they were gone for ages. And we were sort of getting worried, it's getting a bit dark, and then they came back in. And he literally had his arm around the boy, walking him in. And the boy was smiling and happy and calm and feeling good. And I was just like, I thought about that, and over the years, I've thought about it in a different way, and I'm just like, it's what the Saviour does for us. He knows how to track us, and no matter what has spooked us or frightened us, He will come find us, and He will lead us back to the safety of the camp, where everybody is that can help us more, where we can have that wraparound support. And I think too, and I looked at, pictures of my granddad did go hunting. There are times he would carry out, the deer or the boar that they'd found, the pig that they'd found, across his shoulders. Now, by the time he was in his early 60s, it's probably not something he could have done anymore. This is something he'd done in his 20s, but physically strong. And he wasn't like a huge man. You're not thinking big, strapping, strong, but no, but he was strong and just had that, I don't know, I think grit and determination to do it. He'd done a lot of cool things. And I remember looking at that and thinking, gosh, my granddad's pretty awesome. But I kind of already knew that. But over the years past that, I've looked at that. I'm like, that's what the Saviour does for us. He comes and finds us. No matter why we've run off, what we're going through, He will always come and find us. So we are not lost, and we're not forgotten. And we're going to talk more about that. Elder Uchtdorf said, if you are feeling lost, abandoned, or forgotten, fear not. The Good Shepherd will find you. He will lift you upon His shoulders, and He will carry you home. Now, I know my granddad didn't literally lift this kid on his shoulders, but he did walk him back in with his arm around him, obviously. And he said they'd been off. He found him within 10 minutes, apparently, and they'd just talked for an hour and a half about all sorts of things, and just really calmed this kid down. And I'm just like, one of the reasons I love my granddad so much is because of that's the kind of man he was, and that's the kind of example he set. Even though the teachers were in charge, he stood up and took charge of that situation and made it okay. And awesome, man. I love that, and I'm never going to forget that. So yeah, have a look at that. Now go look at How Firm a Foundation to Him. It's amazing. Read it as a poem, sing it if you want to, but this is what it comes from, and yeah, we all need that in our lives. So check that out. All right, hang around for the third one. It's going to be good.